Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy podcast. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a newer, stronger foundation essential in creating your meaningful legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. As much as you like this podcast, I'm certain that you're going to love the book that I just released on Amazon, Fuel Your Legacy, The 9 Pillars to Build a Meaningful Legacy. I wrote this to share with you the experiences that I had while I was identifying my identity, how I began to create my meaningful legacy, and how you can create yours. You're going to find this book on Kindle, Amazon, and our website, samknickerbocker.com. Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy podcast. And as always, bringing on the movers, the shakers, the people who are making the transition from living somebody else's legacy, fulfilling, building somebody else's legacy, to really taking ownership of who they are and who they're meant to be, their talents, their identity, and bringing it to the world, which is you. So thank you for listening. If you love this podcast, if you've been getting tons and tons of value out of it, go please and write a review on whatever app you're listening to this on, whether it's iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever it is. Go write a review, rank and review it so that more people can hear this valuable content. Today, we're going to be talking to Mr. Peter Sumpton, correct? Sumpton?
That's correct. Believe me, I've had all sorts, so that's fine.
I believe you know that. Perfect. So Peter Sumpton, the cool thing about Peter Sumpton is I love his angle that he's taking on this. So he is a master of marketing, but he calls himself the Lego master of marketing. It's important to, as part of marketing, attach yourself to something that's well known so that people will remember you. So I love this idea of the Lego master of marketing, taking the messy building blocks, which we all, if you've ever tried to market yourself, brand yourself, you know that it's a mess, right? Especially if you have no idea what you're doing. If you've ever played with Legos, you also understand it's a mess and you can build whatever you want, but with no vision, you usually don't get very much. So all the messy building blocks as to what makes up a successful marketing plan, takes them, codify them, make them easily understood so that it looks presentable. And you've got a cool little, for me, I don't know why I always think of Star Wars when I think of Legos, but a nice little Millennium Falcon driving around, right? Because that's just what I think of. Maybe that's indicative of the time in my life when I played with Legos.
Yeah, sure.
But go ahead, Peter. Let us know kind of your story. Share that transition. What made you leave? Another really exciting thing, listen to Peter's story very closely. We have not had very many guests on here that are in his exact position, and the timing of this could not be better. So listen for that. And if you don't pick it up, I'll draw attention to it after his story. But I'm super excited for this. So take it away, Peter.
Great. What an intro. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me on. Absolute pleasure. So I suppose the first thing to say is the whole Lego thing. I remember when I was younger, and that's, I suppose, where the story starts. And similarly to you, I was into Star Wars and more the space Lego. And that was kind of the first thing that I ever had in terms of Lego, this spaceship that I build and break down and build and break down. And fast forward into right now, that's why I like to class myself as the Lego master of marketing. It's a bit catchy, but it also goes back a long way to where I actually started and kind of a love of Lego. And then from that, building a love of marketing. So let's leave the Lego for one side the moment. I grew up in a small town, middle of nowhere, and kind of had two choices. Went to school, fine family, no problem. It's not a wonderful rags to riches story, nothing like that. Pretty standard, to be fair. But in the town where I grew up, you had two choices. You either lived, worked there, and basically spent your whole life in that town, or you moved away. So it was my decision that I would go to university, and I had to choose something that I thought would be interesting for the next 3 years of my life to study. Flicking through university books and thinking, okay, I'm not as bright as I probably think I am. So doctor, dentist, lawyer, that's way out of the field, no chance. This marketing thing, this is quite interesting. I wonder what that's all about. And like anybody, the first thing you think of when you think of marketing, or generally most people will think of advertising or communication, because that's the bit we see. That's the bit that everybody sees and everyone's got opinion about it. It's simple as that. But I liked that about marketing. And I liked the fact that within marketing, it went deeper than that. And a color or a brand or a logo or even an advert or a type of communication could actually change somebody's mindset and effectively affect what they're thinking about a particular company or a product or a service. So I thought, let's have a go at this. So went to university, spent 3 years going to a lot of boring lectures, spent 3 years going to some interesting lectures, and spent 3 years playing a lot of football and doing a lot of drinking and stuff that a lot of people do when they go to university. And leaving university, thought, fantastic, degree, happy days, pat on the back, well done, Pete. Now to get a job, I'll just send my CV out. I've been to university, I've got a degree, so someone's bound to pick me up. Straight away, snap me up. And I remember, actually, I had this discussion today with somebody that I'm tutoring. And I said to them, I remember sending my first application for a job after university and being nervous about it because I was thinking, I'm going to get this job and I'm going to have to actually do it. And they're going to ask me questions. And I've never been in this position before. This is a bit strange. And I never heard from them. And then sent another and never heard from them. Another and never heard from them. And I suppose all this gears up to where I am now, in that I almost took the first job that I could get just because I wanted to get a job. And a lot of people will be listening and thinking, well, you're lucky just to get a job in the first instance. I'd kill to go to university and get a job. And yeah, you're bang right. Some people really struggle to get that job, but it does have a lasting impression on you, and it does massively affect the way your life goes and the way it's guided and how you grow and develop as a person and within your profession. It just does. So I had a few marketing jobs, thought I knew it all, thought I knew what good marketing was. Very communications based, focused straight on the comms straight away. And this was pre-internet, by the way. So anyone that's probably under the age of, say, 18, 16, listening is probably thinking, what did you do pre-internet? Well, it's a good question, really. What did we do? Can't really remember. But fast forward a little bit after those few jobs, and I came to this realization that marketing isn't just about communications, although that is what people see and believe it to be first and foremost. And I've got a little analogy for you here, and hopefully this will make sense. Going pre-internet, by the way, so let's go old school for a second. If you're writing a letter to somebody, if you have to write a letter, what do you start that letter with? You start it with somebody's name and their address. Basically, you know who you're writing that letter to. And then you go on and you build the letter. You construct the letter, main points, and then sign it and send it off. What you don't do is write it and then think, who am I going to send this to? And that's the bit of marketing that a lot of people, even in marketing, don't quite understand. The fact that it's all about, marketing's simple. It's all about who you're targeting, your market in general, and then the communication on top. It's very much that cherry on top of the cake. If you don't build the cake first, there's no point in having the cherry of communications. So anyway, this realization came to me, and I'd had a few jobs in marketing, and it wasn't really my bag. It wasn't really something I was passionate about in terms of the industries I was in. And now it comes to the point where I'm at right now. So hopefully your listeners will, some of them will understand where I'm at, either been there or are there or are thinking of this. So my current role, I really enjoyed it, love the people I work with, really passionate about marketing in my profession. But I just didn't have that link to the industry. I just didn't feel that I was fully connected to the industry. So long story short, I'd say about a year to 2 years ago, I decided I need to do something for myself. I need to build something that's purely me, because I'm sick and tired of working in marketing departments or fighting internally with other divisions to highlight the importance of marketing. I need to branch out and do this for myself, build something so I can highlight this to other people of how you do marketing correctly, whether that's writing a letter or creating a Facebook post. It doesn't start with that post, it starts further back. So that was about 2 years ago. So what I started to do, I was already tutoring people through another company I worked with on the side. I went to them and I said, can you help me out here? What can we do? How I want to grow and build a business. Can you help me? And they were, okay, so you can partner with us and we will put people through our books for you and you can tutor them for professional qualifications. And I'm like, brilliant. That's a great start. Fast forward 2 years and now I'm at a position where I'm okay, handed in my notice, and I did that. Not quite sure when this is going out, but I did it, say, at the start of October. And by the end of this month, or the end of October, I'll be going it alone. So it's like slap bang in the middle of this transition. And the caveat being, or the one thing that I want to get across to people that are listening is, there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's more than one way to make money. There's more than one way to leave your job. You can do it instantly or you can do it slowly. And I'm quite risk averse. So what I've done is I've taken my time. I've got to know my audience and I've got to understand what I actually want to do and what my passion is and where that is. And that's led me to today. So I'm at the point of leaving my job and going full time in terms of tutoring people for professional qualifications, mentoring them through apprenticeships for marketing, but also going into companies and showing them how you should actually do marketing, how you need to start with your audience. You don't start with the comms. And that's where I am today.
Yeah, I love it. So there's a few things that I want to bring out of this story. And then I'm going to take one real quick note here before I forget it. I don't know why we always use this example, but we do. Okay, so just some terminology here so people understand. In Europe, and then we've started a little bit using it here, but not always. But CV is the equivalent of a resume. So anybody who's like putting your CV out, what the heck is a CV? Right? Is that a Honda CV? No, a CV is a resume, essentially. Okay, and so that's something that had to be built. If you go back to, and this is kind of the example that I want to bring up. How many people? Maybe this is you. Maybe it's somebody else that's listening. You who is listening to this podcast, but the plumber who doesn't fix his own toilets, the plumber who has broken plumbing in his house and is too busy to fix it. Right? That is one area that I've seen happen over and over and over and over and over, specifically in the marketing field, where people come in, I can brand you, I can help you market, I can do all this, but they are not doing it for themselves. They're not even close to doing it for themselves. They haven't branded themselves. They haven't created brand standards. They haven't understood marketing. And so they're trying to sell you something that they are not doing for themselves. And even if they have a wicked awesome portfolio of people they've helped, they're not doing it for themselves. So it's important for you to understand when you're looking for a professional in any area of your life, I believe, you should be looking for somebody who is actively doing what they're trying to help you do. They're actively doing it for themselves. They're living what they preach. They're walking the line that they're showing you to walk, and they're on the path. And what's cool about that is Peter. Peter is already branding himself. He's creating a brand. And this, as he said, he first got this idea or first started working on this 1 to 2 years ago. It's not like just overnight he decided to create a brand. He's built a brand while he was at his, I guess you could call day job or last form of employment. And that is important to understand that he's built this. Now, where do you start when you build a brand? And this is part of what my message is when I'm talking to people is that understanding that you have to identify your identity to really build off of. Because if you're going to go build something, especially if you're going to go build a business and you're building something that is not in alignment with your values and who you are at your core, it will fail. Mm-hmm. I don't know how big it's going to get before it fails, but you can only build so big of a building on a weak foundation. Maybe you get away with a first level story. You're barely surviving. You've got a job with, rather than only having one boss, you've got all of your customers' bosses. Maybe you get a job, but it's your own job, right? But to build a a legacy, to build something long lasting and structured, you have to start with your identity. And I love that that's the first place you started. The logo, master of marketing, the Lego master of marketing, that comes from his core, something that he connects with from his childhood. It's part of his identity. And so he's bringing his identity, his weirdness, right? So there's a phrase in marketing, what is your weird? You need to be able to share what your weird is with other people so that you're remembered, so that people think about you. And your weird could be any number of things. My weird, if you go to my Facebook page, and I'm not a cross-dresser, I'm not homosexual, right? But I like to do weird things. And if you go on my Facebook page, you're going to see me in some hot pink high heels and a blue suit, right? And you might think, that's weird. It is weird, man. When you go to my page, I want you to remember, or when I speak on stage, I show everybody this picture when I speak on stage because I want them to think, that guy is weird. Right? Because that weird connects them with me. It says, okay, yes, he's a serious businessman, and he doesn't take himself too seriously. And that is essentially the sweet spot of my value system. Candor, very direct, very honest, but on the same token, very grateful, happy, and somebody who lives in integrity to themselves. So doesn't take themselves too seriously. So that's really, really important aspect of marketing that I love that you did. And
there's just a couple of things that you picked up on there. Going back to the plumber. Mm-hmm. So this is why I do what I do. And if a pipe bursts and you're not a plumber, you're going to call a plumber, but you're not going to call anyone. You're going to call one that you know, like, and trust, and you're going to call one that knows what they're doing.
Hopefully.
And it amazes me the amount of people I speak to that are in a marketing department and they don't know the strategic elements. They don't know what marketing orientated businesses are. They don't know what various acronyms, and we've all got acronyms and all that rubbish, but they don't know the fundamental basics. And they're put in a position usually, and it's crazy, but it's true. Usually they're put in the marketing department because they know Twitter. Oh, you've got a Facebook account, you can do that. And it's like, how can you, that's like saying to a plumber or saying to your friend, my toilet's broken. You use the toilet. Can you come around and fix it? You just wouldn't. Craziness.
Yeah.
And so the second thing is you mentioned branding being massively important. So two things on that. My branding is going through a massive transition for various reasons, and that's when I came up with the Lego Master of Marketing. So if anyone looks me up, it's going through massive changes, massive transitions, and at some point in the very near future, it will be bang on point. But that's what I've been doing for the past 2 years, is working out what the audience wants and where I should go. The second thing, if anybody's listening and they want to build and develop their own brand, just remember one thing, and that's all a brand is a promise. That it's as simple as that. It is a promise. As soon as that promise is broken, you don't have a brand. So next time you see a brand, take Hershey's, for example. Their promise is that they will deliver delicious chocolate, whether you like it or not. That's kind of what their brand stands for, is chocolate, delicious chocolate, best chocolate you'll ever eat. If you eat a chocolate bar, Hershey's chocolate bar, and it's disgusting, they've broken that promise, and you won't forgive them, and they'll lose your trade. So just remember, it is a promise.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually, my brand also is going through I would say more clarification. I used to brand myself as Samuel Knickerbocker and Fuel Your Legacy, and I'm separating the two because and this is going to happen with everybody, I think. You're going to initially brand one way, and your brand is a constant transformation. So Understand that you're not like locked into one thing and you're out of integrity if you're not sticking to that one thing. But my brand, I had to separate because the Fuel Your Legacy side of my brand is taking on kind of a life of its own. And the Samuel Knickerbocker brand is taking on a life of its own. And I wanted to separate those so that my clients can be more specific about what that promise is.
Yeah.
And I love that, talking about the promise aspect of it, understanding what that is. Specifically with marketing, I'm going to touch on another thing that I've seen happen in the industry. So if you're looking for somebody to start marketing for you, and you're kind of interviewing different people to market and to start determining where do I send my money, a lot of people, they're like, I can write copy, I can write an ad for you, I can split test on Facebook or whatever, landing pages. And so you're like, okay, cool. And can you do this for you? Can you content create for me? And they will do it. The problem is it's exactly which I think is the best. This is probably the best analogy I've ever heard of marketing, the letter analogy, right? They are writing copy. You're paying them to write copy. It's okay, generic copy. And when I say copy, that's basically advertising words. So the words that are in advertising for people who don't understand the industry. But they're writing stuff, but it's generic because they don't know who they're writing it to. So they're writing this letter and then determining, well, let's just blast it out and see who likes the letter. And then based on if we change 3 words in the letter, maybe we'll get a better response from this group. They have no idea who they're marketing to. That is an issue. And if you're paying for that level of service, stop paying for it and go find somebody who's going to help you at least initiate the conversation of who are we marketing to? Okay. There's a lot of people out there who will take your money, and I'm not saying they're bad at their job. There probably are really good copywriters, like people who are writing this, but they are only as good as they know who they're writing to. And that's crucial. In fact, when I started working with my brand, and this is one of the reasons why my brand is going through a revision, because it's all about the mindset of where you're starting, whether it's financial or in life, whether it's who you're marrying, whatever it is. What intention are you starting? So with my branding and with your promise, is your promise something that people would tattoo on their body, right? When you start asking yourself that question, if enough people bought into this, would they be willing to tattoo my logo on their body because the meaning of the promise is so grand, and they can get behind the meaning of that promise? And if not, then your brand you need to be clarifying your brand a little bit more. And that's why I've changed my logo, because I want my logo to be tattooable, right? I want my logo for somebody to be like, yeah, I'll wear that on my arm. I'll wear that on my shirt. I'll wear that on my hat because it looks cool. And people are going to ask, what does that mean? And then I can tell them, it's an invitation to tell them about this legacy. And that's an important aspect of the logo design of things when it comes to it. But in finance, I was just on a podcast the other day, and the guy's like, well, if I have X amount of dollars, where would you tell me to start investing? Before I ever talk about investing, before I ever talk about the copy, before I ever talk about what's in the letter, I have to know your values, what's important to you. And that's where it starts. And it's going to start that way everywhere. When you're getting married, do you just go look for the cutest person out there? Or do you look for, hey, who's compatible? What am I looking for? And this isn't about making a checklist about qualities you want in somebody necessarily. Maybe
Steve Jobs did that. Jobs actually, he had pros and cons of whether he wanted to get married, and his current wife, well, his only wife, I think, actually saw that and she found it funny. So
yeah, but the thing is, like, everything that you do in life really should start with, is it in alignment with your identity? If it is, great. If it's not, then it's easily dismissible if you know what your identity is and your value system. And it takes so much confusion out of life. Like, should I do it? Should I not do it? If it passes the identity test and the value test, there's a good chance that it'd be worth doing and to give it some honest consideration. If it doesn't pass either of those, then just pass on it. It could be a great opportunity for somebody else, but it's not you.
And so, if people are unsure what they're passionate about or what, like it took me 2 years to make this leap, and I'm massively passionate about marketing. It's fundamental. It's almost in my blood, if you like. You know, I do this stuff for free. You know, I do it in my spare time, whatever it is. If it's about marketing, that's where I come alive. But what I want people or your listeners to think about is that they need to find what they're passionate about. And the best way to do that, particularly if they're skeptical about working for themselves or going it alone or not having that regular paycheck, is, would you be willing to talk about it and do it for free? Try doing it in the evenings and weekends. And the one thing that I always say when people say, I just haven't got the time, and I know we're all time sensitive now, but if you're passionate about something, you will find the time. But not only that, I always do it when I'm tutoring, and I say, you need to study, you need to do your research, and you always get the old, I just can't find the time. And then I'll say, okay, what happened on that soap? What happened on that comedy program? It was brilliant. You see what happened, and you're like, there's an hour. There's your first hour a week. Do you watch the news? There's 5 hours a week. I've just given you 6 hours of time. Use that.
Yeah. And maybe, this is the reality. Maybe you are the most passionate thing about that soap opera or whatever it is, that comedy show. If that's what you're most passionate about and you could talk for hours about it, start a podcast, start something and talk for hours about it. Like it doesn't matter what you're passionate about. A good branding expert, a good marketing expert, and a good business expert can help you turn that into an economy where you're able to add value to others and make money doing it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter what you're passionate about. Question is, are you passionate enough to do it, and does it fulfill you? There's a lot of things that I'm passionate about that I would love doing that I would probably do for free, but it does not fulfill me the same way as doing what I do on a daily basis, helping my clients, right? This morning I woke up and pulled up an Instagram, and there was like 12 messages on Instagram. Like a client that I had helped right before I went to bed, she put on 12 little clips, the 15-second clips on her story about all the things that I was able to help her with. That's incredible. Like, that's like, if you ever want to wake up to something, there's like your clients just telling everybody like a freaking lighthouse, this guy's awesome. That gives you some juice in the morning. Like, okay, yeah, how do I save these so I can always watch that? So I can always see how much people believe in me and the change that I'm making in people's lives. And that gets me excited. I sat in bed with my wife, my 2 boys who are 2.5 and 9 months old. And we watched this for, I don't know, it's like 2 minutes long, 2 or 3 minutes long. We just watched this about what are we doing? What impact are we having in society? What's that promise? And is that promise being kept?
And that part that you've just described, that wasn't monetary. That had no monetary value as such. I know she's a client, but that part that gave you the kick, that gave you the let's do this, that wasn't monetary. That was because you're passionate about that and you loved helping somebody solve a particular problem.
Yeah, no, I love it. So one of the things that happens when in this transition, and you're right in the thick of it, which is so exciting for me, but I want you to tell me the story of your biggest naysayer and how you are actively trying to get them out of your head so you can just drive forward and say, look, this is where I'm going. I'm not going to pay attention to all the people who are trying to still get me to keep my job. It's not too late. I still have it. I turned in my notice, but they would give me my job back if I went in and asked for my job back. How are you silencing those naysayers, and who are the biggest ones in your life right now?
So the people that I thought would be the biggest naysayers turned out to be big advocates, to be fair. So when I decided to make, I was fully aware, fully conscious that I wanted to do this about a year into this 2-year transition, if you like. And for about a year, I was gearing up to tell my family that I wanted to do this. And I thought, because they're very safe, very secure, very, I suppose if you look generationally, is that even a word?
Yep.
Anyway, if you look back, then that generation was very much, you get a job, you stick at it. Then the generation before them was even worse. They probably went through a war, and it's like, I'm just fortunate to have a job. So you should be grateful just to have a job. So I was not petrified, but I thought it would be a case of, that's too risky, don't do that, etc., etc. Well, I told my dad, who's only ever had one job in his life for around 45 years.
Wow.
Yep. Same company. And he said, times have changed. And if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. And I thought, I couldn't believe it. It was just, that was the biggest impetus that I needed to be like, yeah, I need to go for this. Other naysayers, surprisingly, I haven't had that many, which is strange. The one thing that I would say is that everyone has their own opinion, and the whatever you decide to do, it will be the right decision, because you'll never know any different. So whatever you do, whatever your decision is, never look back and think, I should have stayed there. I shouldn't have done this, because it will lead you to a now. It will lead you to this moment, to bigger and better things. And the way I always look at it is, if I don't leave that company, I could be driving to work the day after I leave and be hit by another car. Mm-hmm. And that reality does no longer exist anymore because I've changed that in my life. Now, I know that's a bit of a bizarre way to look at it, but I will never know if that would happen or not. So there's no point in looking at that alternative universe. It's your universe and you are where you are now. So just think of the forward, never look back.
Yeah, I love that you're bringing in the universe. A while back, I was having a conversation with some colleagues, and something that people really struggle with, I've seen over my coaching and guiding people through just a financial conversation, but it's everywhere. People really struggle with the idea that they are the creator of their own universe. Mm-hmm. And they want to pass that responsibility off onto God, off onto others, their neighbors, the person who cut them off on the road. Like, they want to pass off the idea of creation to anybody else, because the idea of that they are the creator of their universe is too incredibly painful, because they have to realize, if I'm the creator and I'm where I am right now, then it's on me. And that is a terrifying thought, but it's also, when you make the transition, when you make it past the hump, that is the most blissfully wonderful, happy, joyful thought that you could ever tell me of, is that it's my job to create. I'm the creator of my universe, and I determine what my universe looks like and how I view it. I can't control anybody else's actions, but I can control what I'm telling myself in my mind, and that's my universe. In between these two ears and what I do, that's my universe, and nobody else gets to control that but me. And for you who's listening, nobody else gets to control your universe. And it's on you. Whatever's happening in life, it's on you. And even if you can't change the physical circumstances of where your life is right now initially, you can change your perception of those physical circumstances, which will completely alter your reality. And you can live in a completely new universe where there's joy, happiness, love, conviction, passion, everything you've ever dreamed of. It is absolutely attainable by a simple mindset shift. I know you don't like to hear that. Most people, they don't want to hear that if they're not in the right mindset, but it's the truth, and somebody's got to tell you.
Yeah, I absolutely completely agree. And the other thing that kind of spurred me on to where I am now, and this was over various conversations with numerous people, and we are so fixated on the now, and that's fine. You know that moment now, and as humans, we get lazy and comfortable because that's who we are. We're human beings. We don't like change, or many of us don't like change. And it's so hard to change, but you have to do that for you. No one will do it for you. No one's going to hand you a golden ticket. It's up to you to make that change, to make that leap. And the thing that, and it's kind of in the back of my mind, but not really. It's on the back. It's almost like the safety zone that I push away. And that's, if it all goes terribly, terribly wrong, I can get another job because I've got those skills in the bank. I'm growing and developing a business. I've worked for multiple businesses within marketing. I know my stuff, or I hope I know my stuff. Sure. Hopefully I'm coming across like I do. So I can always go and work for somebody else. There is jobs out there. I'm not saying I'd walk into anywhere, far from it. But I've probably had, say, 5 or 6 or 7 jobs in my career so far. So there might be an 8th or 9th. There could be. I'm hoping there isn't, and that I'd make a great success of this business and we all live happily ever after. But there's always that little safety zone that says, if worse comes to worse, there are always jobs out there. It might not even be the job you like, but if that keeps you going while you're still doing this thing that you're so passionate about, then so be it, because that passion should override anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say that over the last 2 or 3 years that while you've been kind of easing yourself into this idea, and now you're in the middle of transition, what is one habit, mindset, or behavior that you've used to start creating your legacy?
A few, I suppose. So the first main habit is I started going to the gym about 5-6 years ago, say. And the only way that I was ever going to continue going to the gym is if I made it so that it was like eating and drinking. I had to do it. It wasn't if I get time, I'll go to the gym. It was a case of, well, I need to eat food. I need to drink water. I need to go to the gym. And it was just part of it. There was, it was a non-negotiable, if you like. And then it just becomes ingrained into your system. And similarly with this, I started doing it on evenings and weekends, and it's putting that time aside and dedicating that time. And that's made me massively conscious of how to make more efficiencies in the time that I've got. And the fact that I've only got, say, 2 to 3 hours in an evening, maybe say 6 hours a day at a weekend, if you don't include being with family members and some downtime, because we all need that. And it's been massively focused and organized because you are in charge, and it's up to you to make those decisions and be very, very organized. So if anything, it's made me massively, massively disciplined, particularly because, as you can see, I'm at home, and this would be sort of my office. There's a TV there. Don't think that's ever been switched on. So there's so many distractions around you. But if you get in that place where you are massively structured and you know what you're doing, that's when you start to create efficiencies, and you can get so much more done if you concentrate on the things that can keep you moving. That's one thing that I've massively changed. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. Just creating the discipline and setting up what are your non-negotiables. Have you ever written that down? Like, what is it that you will do every day, no matter what? And just like you said, eating, drinking water, sleeping, those are things that no matter what, they're happening because your body needs that to survive. And I think if you create that mindset around whatever it is you need to get done for your passion and that time, and that's your you time, then that's a phenomenal habit. So how did you, you're in this transition. This is one of the best ones to have because you're in the transition. But in the transition, how did you plan on financially supporting yourself through this transition? Do you have a spouse working? What is it that you have going on that's assisting you in this transition?
Absolutely love that question. And I think it's probably the biggest thing will be for people that are listening, probably that financial aspect. That's because I don't know any of my family members thinking about it that don't have or haven't had a regular paycheck, including myself. I've never not had that for how many years is it now? For 19 years. I've had that regular paycheck. So going from that to not having that is a massive, massive step change. So what happened about a year and a half ago when I decided to take this seriously, I started creating savings. So I was doing work on the side, on evenings and weekends. When I got my regular paycheck, put as much as I could aside, stopped spending on stupid things. And I don't want to come across as we could have everything. We drank water and we ate lettuce for a year and a half. Nothing like that at all. We've been on some great holidays and things like that. But it certainly makes you look at what you're spending on. Do you really need 18 shirts? Yeah, maybe not. If you're in this transition, do you really need to spend money on certain things? Probably not. And if you really want this to happen, and like I said before, I'm really massively risk averse. So the only way I could make this happen is if I knew I had a lot of savings. So if it all went terribly wrong, I could support my family I've given it 12 to 18 months. So I know if it goes really badly wrong, I've got 12 to 18 months. So if I wanted to, I could just go to a beach for 12 to 18 months and then find another job. But we don't want that.
No.
So just to add into it, so I have got a family to support. So it's a case of taking them into consideration. So it's just about being prepared, working out the best advice in terms of monetary advice for anyone that's looking to transition is write down what you potentially could get in, what you definitely know you're going to get in. And then you'll be able to work out how much you need to save to maintain your lifestyle that you've got now. Then you can drop that lifestyle a little bit if you need to. But it's important that you understand how much you will actually need to support yourself if you had zero income coming in. And ideally that wouldn't happen, but you've got that in the background. So that's where I am, again, massively risk averse. So you don't have to throw everything up in the air one day at work and go, I quit, I'm off. You don't. You could do, and if you're happy to do that and take that risk, do it. If it's in your nature. If it's not, be sensible about it. Get some kind of savings together that you can rely on. Don't touch it. Don't look at it. Just keep putting it in every month. And don't think that everyone's focused on the now. Think of the future. Think of 12 months down the line. Plan for 12 months. Like we were saying, this has taken me 1 to 2 years to get to this stage. So I've been planning for 1 to 2 years, not just from the brand, not just from the marketing, not just from what I want to do for the rest of my life, but also from the savings and the monetary side, so that we are safe and secure for X amount of months.
Yeah, I love that, because it is true. And I would say, I'm taking one step further. Even if you're not planning on making a transition, you really should know what is your bottom line that needs to come in every month that, like, you're spending. And you need to know, hey, what's my bottom line? Food, shelter, insurance, transportation. Yeah. And then what is everything else that, like, if push comes to shove, we can get rid of, and really understand what is necessities, what's discretionary, and then what's like extra money that you could be putting away somewhere. And understanding how money works, understanding the rules of money and where that money needs to be and how it needs to be in a year from now, how you're going to pull that out. All of those are crucial aspects that you need to get nailed down regardless of what your plan is. But especially if you're transitioning, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs who they're like, I'm going to do this business idea, and they're super stoked about it. And they have 2 or 3, maybe 4 good months while they're moonlighting. And so then they quit their job, but they really haven't planned really for the future. And they're still in this scaling up phase. And it crushes them, and it almost scares them to go back out and try it again. And that's, I think this skill that you just talked about is understanding where your finances are and what you need, especially if you have a family. You've got to be thinking of your family. It's not like you're a single guy who can go sleep in his car if things don't work out.
Yeah.
Right? And I know people who are that way. They sleep at their office because they lost their house, right? And I get that. And I'm all like, if that's you go for it, right? But it sounds like Peter and I are pretty close to the same. Like, I don't like a lot of risk. I've got a family. I've got my wife and 2 kids. I don't want them to feel the stress of me growing a business. And so how do we manage that? And did you, I'm curious, did you just figure it all out yourself, or did you counsel with other professionals, kind of like the toilet example, right? Or did you call somebody who's an expert in that, or did you say, oh, let's see what we can do by ourselves and stuff it under the bed?
So I did it the very long way round. So what I did for one of those years where I was thinking about it was I documented everything that we incoming and outgoing, so that this year, I know approximately if I have exactly the same year as I did last year, and that was just doing it on the side, if you like, how much we've got coming in. So how much I will need savings to last us for 12 to 18 months for the next year. So yes, I went to see an accountant and I said, am I crazy? And they said, no, you're not. Give us your money. No, they said, no, we just have to figure out your finances, et cetera, do it in the right way. So I did go to somebody, and I'd advise anyone to seek financial advice. Absolutely 100%. But the best thing you can do is just start by writing it down, exactly like you said. Non-negotiables. What do we need to survive? What can we get rid of? If at all. Not saying get rid of it, because the one thing that I don't particularly like in this day and age is we always hear the save for this and we save for that. Well, I want to go on holiday, so I'm going to cut that out of my life so I can go on this holiday. And there's that many opportunities around that it shouldn't be the save. It should be, okay, I need X amount to go on a holiday. Does that mean you need to increase your income by $100 a month so you can afford a family vacation next year? And if that's the case, okay, how can you make $100 on the side? Maybe start like that. And then it's not so much of a burden. And then you build it up. Maybe it's $200. Maybe that really worked for you. So then it's 300, 400, 1,000. And then you've got that balance of, okay, I'm getting close to how much I bring in each month anyway. So maybe it is worth that. risk, and then you do all the financial stuff, etc., etc.
Yeah, I love that. That mindset that he just talked about, the mindset shift is the difference between fear and scarcity of can I even make it, and abundance. Let's start making it. Let's just add some extra income and let's fulfill our dreams, pay for our trips, our whatever we want through added income rather than trying to cut back and live within our pennies. How about we just go make some more dollars, right?
Yeah.
So I love that. I'm curious. One of the things that I love about what Peter does is there are certain industries that are completely, what's the word? They're worldwide industries, right? Anybody in any country can help you with this if they're good at it, right? And so he's in one of those industries where it doesn't matter where you live. You could call him, maybe with a little language barrier. I don't know how many languages he knows. I only know English, so I am limited to like.
Yeah, same here. It's embarrassing.
Okay, it is embarrassing. I have friends who speak 6 and 7 languages, and I'm just like, I barely speak English, and I'm not good at it. So, anyways, so we have a certain level of that. Google Translation, certain things can help, or if we have friends, like I say, I have friends who speak other languages to help me. But these principles, they work all over the world, no matter what country you're in. And so how would we go about getting a hold of you? Where do we connect? Social media, websites? Like, what is the best way to get involved in your mission, your vision? If we want to support you, we want to maybe give you some business and say, okay, let's get you rolling as you help us get rolling. Where do we connect? How can we support you?
Appreciate that. Thank you. My main social media platform is LinkedIn. So just look up my name, Peter Sumpton. Simple as that. You can go to marketingstudylab.co.uk, which is my website. But like I say, that's going into transition. So bear with me on that one. Or you can email me. So peter@marketingstudylab.co.uk.
Okay.
And even if it's just for a brief chat over marketing, even if you want a bit of advice, I'll speak all day about marketing.
Yeah.
So don't worry about that.
I think anybody who's really passionate about what they do, they really will, to a degree, they'll give it away for free because they just love helping. They want to see people succeed. There is a point at which just the value of time, we have to start charging for our time as professionals simply because we have a family to feed, right? And that's just a natural thing. We can't get away from certain aspects. But if it's for a short conversation or a gradual conversation over time, and we're coming, I know for myself, if somebody comes, well, what do I do? That's a sucky question, and I don't know how to answer that really. Just like, well, here's a few things, go figure it out. Yeah. But if you come and say, hey, this is what I've done, this is where I'm at, what little tweak would you make? What's 1 or 2 things you would change? Then that makes it really easy for Peter or myself in my profession to say, okay, well, here's some things that I would work on. Right now, we can actually give directed feedback because we have a starting point where if somebody's coming in just like, well, where do I start? It's really difficult to help you. So that's some feedback. If you're going to reach out to him, come to him with something. Don't come to him
absolutely.
With like, well, let's just chat about this for an hour with no end in mind. That's essentially, let's write a letter with no person that it's addressed to. Neither of us are going to operate well there. So this is entering the legacy on rapid fire section. I love this section because we get to hear really quickly, what are your goals, where you're headed, and what is holding you back. So the first question, I may ask you for more clarification. I would just say clarify it. It's just easier if we say that the first question, for sure. But 1 word to 1 sentence answers. Okay. The first question, I want a sentence though, not a word.
Right. I know.
Okay. So what do you believe is holding you back from reaching the next level of your legacy today?
Oh, what is holding me back? Time constraints, I think. It's the time to do everything. So I've had, a year, 2 years to focus on this, and now it's happening. It's almost like there's so many things that I want to do and get involved in. It's getting that time.
Okay, so I'm gonna clarify this and just change time constraints because I've been hearing this one frequently as well. What if it's not time constraints but it's systems?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I feel a bit of a fraud because I said halfway through the interview that I'm very structured and all that stuff. I am, but there's just so much to do and get involved. But having said that is on me simply because it just means that I'm not focused on the main things that I need to be focused on. So it's getting clarity on where I need to focus now it's not just a side hustle.
Sure. And that's something, just so you guys who are listening, when you're working part-time, you're moonlighting, it's a side hustle, it's fairly easy to focus on that because you really only can do a certain amount. Once you're getting in the position and you have a lot more time, now the question becomes, you actually have been putting off tons of things, and now is the time to systematize it. So it's not, I wouldn't say he's a fraud. This is a natural progression of a business. Now there's so much more to do because we're ramping it up. Now is the time to create those systems. So that when I say systems, the issue is not necessarily time. The issue is systems to make your time more valuable. So just to kind of give you direction on that, I'm not trying to make Peter look bad. I've heard this a few times. People are like, oh, it's like time. I'm like, what's a better way of saying time that's a solution oriented thing? Like what is it about time that's stressful? Is there literally not time in the day? Well, yeah, I only have 24 hours. Well, then if that's how you're thinking, then you're not thinking about a business, you're thinking about a job, right? I have 6 billion people times 24 hours. That's how many hours I have. The question is, am I employing all of those hours or not? Mm-hmm. And when you start thinking about things that way, then it actually helps you create a system that allows you to start building your business from a perspective of, I ultimately want to step away from this sucker in 3 to 5 years from now and not have to work. I probably still work because I love it, but I don't want to have to work in 3 to 5 years from now. If I'm building my business to where I have to be there every day, that is not a business. That is a glorified job with too many bosses. Which sucks. So next question. What is the hardest thing that you've ever accomplished?
The hardest thing I've ever, it'd be a half marathon. Nothing to do with business.
Hey, that's okay.
Two half marathons, and now my knee's gone, so I don't think I'm going to get a full half marathon. But that is the hardest thing, because I put my heart and soul into it, and I got a half decent time. I think I was 7 minutes under what I wanted to actually achieve. Wow! So I was buzzing off that. That's probably the hardest thing I've had to do.
That's cool. So, what is the greatest success at this point in your life?
The greatest success is, my family. Without a doubt, what we've built for ourselves. Definitely.
I love that. What is one secret you believe contributes the most to your success?
Believing in myself. Simple as that. I think, like you were saying before, it's that psychological element. And if you don't believe in yourself, how are other people going to believe in it? And that's not to say you have to be cocky and bullshit and look at me, aren't I great? It just means that you believe that you can add value to somebody's life and you can solve people's problems.
I love that. So what are 2 or 3 books that you'd recommend to the Fuel Your Legacy audience to help them get their start?
Yeah. So the first one is Marketing Rebellion by Mark Schaefer. Absolutely love it. It's his latest book, and the main statement that I took away from that is the most human company always wins. And that's very true. The second one, again, really, really fresh book, but This is Marketing by Seth Godin. And in it, just one quote from it, he says, people like us do things like this. And what he means by that is that you need to find your own tribe. You need to find the people that know you, understand you, and are like you. Because people like us do things like this.
Yeah, I love that. And that's going down to your promise. That's going down to your brand. Like when you're thinking of who am I addressing this letter to, you're thinking of people like us do things like this. And even if you just use that in your messaging, hey, people who want to focus on their legacy and this is their goal. For me, like I'm personalizing this, right? If your goal is to fuel your legacy and you want to build something, you want to be remembered X amount of years from now, people who want that, they do X, Y, and Z. And if that's all your campaign is, then the people who are like, I do want that, then now they're going to naturally say, okay, well, how do I accomplish X, Y, and Z? What is the process of doing these things? Because if that's what people do, right? If you want to be a millionaire, you got to think like a millionaire. Okay. Mm-hmm. The question is, how do millionaires think? And where can I get access to more millionaires to find out how they think? And so it's the same thing. I love that quote. So now we're going to go into my favorite part of this episode. It's a surprise. Okay. He's been itching. He's, man, what is it? What is this? We're going to find out how in alignment Peter Sumpton actually is. You guys excited for this? I'm excited for because you just never know.
I'm kind of excited. My feeling right now is exactly how I feel about leaving my job and going it alone. I'm really excited, but petrified at the same time.
Good. The funny thing is, we're going to pretend that you're dead. Okay.
Okay.
So we're going to pretend you're dead, and you have the special opportunity to come back and view your great grandchildren sitting around a table talking about your life. This is 6 generations from now. I mean, just think about it. 6 generations from now. There's back 6 generations ago. That was pre-World War I. I mean,
Wow.
like 6 generations. Okay. So 6 generations from now, your great grandchildren, they're sitting around a table talking about your legacy, talking about what your life meant and what they gained from it. What do you want them to be saying about your legacy, Peter?
Wow, that is a big question. I wish I knew that was coming. Just that he followed his passion and he stood up for what he believed in. If I can get that across, then I'm fine with that. And if that motivates anyone, the 6th generation of my family, if that motivates them to follow their passion, but do it securely, because I'm totally risk averse. But no, seriously, follow their passion, even if it's a side hustle, even if it's just at weekends. Do what you love and love what you do.
And just so you guys are clear, I believe that is absolutely in alignment with the whole message of this podcast, because it really comes down to, are you really doing and being who you say you're being? He's in the middle. He's in the transition. He stepped out on his own because he believes that he can do it, and he's following his passion. Regardless of what the consequences is, he did his worst case analysis, said, hey, can I accept that? I can. We're going for it. And so I love that. Thanks a bunch. Thanks for joining us. I know it's a little bit later where you're at than where I am, but I appreciate your insight. I hope everybody goes and takes the opportunity to reach out to you, share this on social media, and do the things that are going to help everybody gain greater knowledge. Because this marketing, it's not just about business. It's about life. It's about a legacy. It's about how you're going to be remembered. And what are you doing today to build that? So thank you so much for joining us, Peter.
No, thank you. Absolute pleasure. Really enjoyed it.
Awesome. We'll catch you guys next time on Fuel Your Legacy. Thanks for joining us. If what you heard today resonates with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me. And if you do give me a shout out, I'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Thanks to all of those who've left a review. It helps spread the message of what it takes to build a legacy that lasts. And we'll catch you next time on Fuel Your Legacy.